Now, over the past few months, there have been a number of demonstrations in cities across the world by taxi drivers who are unhappy at the arrival of alternative operators. You've probably heard the name Uber, companies like that coming in and operating alternative services. Well, drivers have indeed protested in London only in the past couple of weeks. Well, now, the various York taxi companies have joined together to highlight that they are unhappy with the arrival of out-of-town cars. Rather than creating blockades like some cities have done, the York drivers have found a rather novel way of getting their message across. They've got one massive, giant mobile billboard. And to find out more about this, one of the persons who's been organising all of this is Keith Hatfield, who's from Station Taxis in York. Keith, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening.
So just explain to us, what are classed as out-of-town cars?
Well, these are vehicles that are coming from places like Leeds, Wakefield, and they have no jurisdiction in York at all. The York licences don't even know who they are.
But they're not doing anything illegal, are they? I mean, they presumably are licensed in their area to be able to operate.
Yeah, they're licensed in their area to operate, but they don't. If you're a York driver, you have to go through a lot of hoops to get a York licence. For instance, you have to have, a knowledge test, which can take 6 months to get. You've got to have cars that are of much higher standard than in Euro emissions. These guys are coming in overnight and just driving around. They're going down one-way streets the wrong way. We've actually found some of these cars haven't got valid MOT certificates, and we just had it confirmed by the council today. So we feel the council is letting the York people down. They're putting the people's safety at risk.
So have you spoken to York City Council about this?
Yeah, we've actually given them details of these vehicles, and they've come back to me today to say that one of them is actually being prosecuted by his own council. Now, this shouldn't be happening. It wouldn't happen to a York driver. He wouldn't get away with this. It wouldn't have never have happened.
So the City of York Council have told us when we asked them earlier on to comment on this that that drivers and vehicles, as long as they are private hire and they're licensed by an English licensing authority, they're legally allowed to pick up pre-booked passengers in any location in England, provided they have been booked through a licensed operator.
Well, they have. No one seems to be interpreting this law. As far as we were concerned, that was one job. You came in to do one job and went out again. These guys are driving from Leeds. We watch them every day, and they're working all day in York. We're not even sure if their insurance is validated for that. No one can give us an answer on that, and I think that's wrong. Any grey area should be dealt with by the council and should come down. We feel let down by the council badly.
And so, what are you asking them to do? Because you've put this great big advertising board that you're driving around.
I think what we'd like them to do is to create a playing field that's level for all, where we use York drivers, the same as all the private hire companies in York do, who would go through the same test and the same legislation that we do. That's all we're asking. We can have as many as they want at these companies, as long as they're York registered driver under the same legislation that we all have to deal with. I think it's unfair. I mean, you've got a councillor actually telling us that he's, what a great job he's done getting Euro emissions down next year, and 5 months later we let all 50 cars in. Where's Euro emissions in that go?
In some ways, though, is it out of the council's hands? Because if these people are licensed and they are operating legitimately within the place where they're based, they have, as I understand it, got that licence, haven't they?
Well, I don't think that's right. The council changed the rule. Let's be honest about it. A multinational wrote to the council, asked for a change in the rules from having a telephone number to a telephone number or an app. Now,
just to clarify, this is actually on the side of vehicles.
The side of the vehicle,
right?
yeah.
So they can put the web addresses
as opposed to a telephone number.
Yeah.
If they didn't think they needed to do that, why did they write in the first place? They didn't need to write in. They could have done what they're doing now without doing any of that, but they did that, and the council gave in to them. They didn't even consult us. They just went through with it. Some woman in the council decided that she had the authority to make that happen, and in January we were told it had happened. It was a fait accompli, so with no choice about it, it happened. We warned them what would happen, that Uber would do all this, and here we are facing this.
So we did put this point to the City of York Council, and they did, and I'll read their statement. They said, in line with the legislation and the Council's usual decision-making process, after taking legal advice, a request to make a minor alteration was agreed in October 2015 by a council director and the elected chair of the licensing committee. It was considered a minor alteration, so they didn't consult on it. And so now that rather than just the telephone number being displayed on the side of a private hire vehicle, you can have a phone number and or a website address being displayed by vehicles licensed by City of York Council. And they say that reflects more modern business practices and allows customers to research the taxi firms they're considering. Surely, as a company, your Station Taxis, you have a website. Wouldn't you want to advertise your website?
Yes, yeah, we do. We all do. But how can it be considered a minor change that allows a multinational to operate from cars that have never happened before? That can never be a minor change. I'm sorry, I don't accept that. None of the drivers in York will accept that. And we had a meeting with the council last week, and we all agreed that they would not be in this city if they hadn't changed the rules. So I'm sorry, I do not believe that is correct.
But from a customer's point of view, is this not bringing more choice to the public? More customer choice?
Well, it might be bringing more choice to the public. I can't see it's benefiting the public because some of these cars they're picking up illegally. They're picking up from ranks which they shouldn't be doing. We had a guy yesterday touting for his business, an actual Uber driver trying to persuade people in a queue at the station to go to his car in the short stay car park. They're not MOT'd. We've got cars at an MOT. There's no jurisdiction. No one knows who they are. That's all we're asking. Let's get some normality back into the trade.
Ultimately, will the public then not decide if what you're saying is correct? And I'm presuming it's not every Uber driver. We have spoken to Uber, and I'll read their statement in just a moment. But if the public will decide surely who they feel safe going with.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. And what I would encourage them to do is to for this moment in time to use a York registered car. That's all I'd ask them to do.
The City of York Council have said to us that during the past 4 weekends they have been increasing enforcement activity across the city to maintain standards. They've recruited new officers to the team, and they say if anyone's got any concerns about any private hire vehicle, or if one's seen breaking conditions, i.e. picking up an unbooked fare on the street, they're saying get in touch with them, public.protection@york.gov.uk, ideally with a registration or a licence number. Are you saying that's not enough then? Because they are saying to me that they're trying to
they can't spot everything, and obviously when these people come out, these drivers get to know about it and they suddenly disappear. So I don't believe that they can do everything. I appreciate what they are doing, but I don't think it's enough, no.
So, is it enough for you then, what you're doing at the moment? We've heard in some cities around the world where taxi drivers have literally brought the city centre, they did it in the capital in London, brought it to a standstill.
Well, we are asking for all drivers to report to a meeting, which was on the 5th of December, to make sure we have some follow-up action to this, because we're not prepared to sit down and let it be taken.
Well, we did approach Uber, and let me just give you their comment. Uber have said they're bringing more choice for people in York who want to get a safe and affordable ride at the push of a button. We abide by the same rules and regulations as all private hire operators. Every driver who uses our app in the city is fully licensed for private hire and has been through the same enhanced DBS background checks as all other drivers. That's what the Uber spokesperson said
I would
to us.
even dispute that, because let's take Rossendale. Rossendale Council issued 2,500 licences last year, and those are drivers who couldn't get a licence anywhere else, and a lot of those drivers drive for Uber all over the country. So I dispute that. Those drivers are illegal, really.
But they're not illegal in the sense they've got their
No,
licence
they've got a licence
from a council.
Yeah, but they've not been checked, as you say, because you've got a statement from an MP here that says they're giving licence, like Rossendale give licences out like sweeties.
So that is that the next thing? Is this something that you're calling effectively not for the City of York Council, not for your competitors, but for somebody else higher up in government to say, look, sort out this licensing mess once and for all?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I think if that happened, everyone would be happy. If you look around, people like Brighton Council have actually gone on air and telling their people not to use these cars because they are getting the same service. So she actually put a notice out to their own public, and we think York should be doing something similar.
But ultimately, if they were licensed through the city centre of York, is it not just competition? You'd have no problem?
No problem at all.
So whoever it was, as long as you're saying it's a level playing field?
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
All right, listen, good to talk to you, Keith. Thank you very much for explaining that situation for us. Keith Hatfield from Station Taxis in York, representing all of the taxi companies in York who are raising this issue at the moment. We'll update the travel news for you, talking of the roads, in just a few moments.
In the hot seat with